On January 20th and 21st, South Korea and the U.S. confirmed their first case.
We have it totally under control. It's one person coming in from China, and we have it under control. It's going to be just fine.
4 days later, the CDC had developed a test kit and saw FDA approval, while South Korea was already shipping its kits to labs across the country. 12 days after that, the CDC finally followed suit, while South Korea was already developing a faster test and deploying that.
Looks like by April, in theory, when it gets a little warmer, it miraculously goes away. I hope that's true.
2 days later, the CDC acknowledged that its tests were flawed, and labs had to send results back to Atlanta.
When you have 15 people, and the 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to zero, that's a pretty good job we've done.
By late February, merely 3 of the more than 100 public labs had a working CDC test.
They're there. They have the tests, and the tests are beautiful. Anybody that needs a test gets a test.
By early March, and 6 weeks since the first case was detected, just 3,000 Americans had been tested, 1 in 100,000 residents, compared to 342 in South Korea.
I call it the unseen enemy. You call it, there's 1,000 different terms for it, but whatever, it snuck up on us.
In mid-March, the U.S. had tested 31 people per 100,000 residents. And while the U.S. caught up and surpassed South Korea's rate of testing on April 15th, those initial delays, combined with a message coming from the president, had serious consequences for the U.S. response. Without good data from testing, U.S. states were essentially flying blind throughout February and early March.
If I get corona, I get corona. At the end of the day, I'm not going to let it stop me from partying.
As life went on largely as normal, the virus was spreading throughout the U.S.
We're in very good shape. People think that goes away in April. The people are getting better. We're going down, not up. And we'll essentially have a flu shot for this in a fairly quick manner. Yeah, go ahead. If you have the flu, you recuperate. 35,000 people on average die each year from the flu. Maybe we have to step up our work on the flu, because when you lose that many people, that's something.
Having regularly downplayed the threat, President Trump declared a national emergency on March 13th.
We're urging every state to set up emergency operation centers effective immediately.
3 days later, the White House issued its social distancing guidelines. On March 22nd, New York reported 100 deaths due to COVID.
零视频 APP 等你下载。